Writing. My beloved child. Stop scrolling for a moment. Yes, you. Do not move past this message because something has shifted tonight in a way your spirit has been waiting for far longer than your mind understands. There is a reason your heart suddenly feels restless. There is a reason your chest tightened when you saw these words. And there is a reason heaven would not allow this message to pass by your eyes unnoticed. Something important has just happened. Someone connected to your destiny made a decision only moments ago, a decision they have been wrestling with in silence for longer than you realize. They did not speak it publicly. They did not announce it to the world. In fact, very few people around them even noticed the shift. But spiritually, emotionally, energetically, everything changed. And that decision involves you. My child, listen carefully because what I am about to reveal will explain the strange emotions you have been carrying recently. The sleepless nights. The random waves of sadness that appeared out of nowhere. The moments you suddenly thought about someone without understanding why. The unexplained pull in your spirit. The feeling that something was approaching but refusing to fully reveal itself. You were not imagining it. Your soul has been sensing movement long before your eyes could see it. For many nights your soulmate sat alone carrying thoughts they could not explain to anyone around them. They smiled in front of people while internally fighting a storm. They acted normal while secretly replaying memories connected to you over and over again in their mind. They tried to distract themselves. They tried to convince themselves they were overthinking. They tried to bury what they felt under work, responsibilities, conversations, noise, and routine. But every path led back to you. Every silence brought your energy back into the room. And tonight, something finally broke inside them. Not in destruction. In clarity. There comes a moment in every destined connection when running becomes more painful than honesty. Your soulmate has reached that moment. They are exhausted from pretending their heart does not already know what it knows. They are tired of carrying emotions that refuse to disappear. And the decision they made tonight was not impulsive. It was built from months of inner conflict, confusion, fear, longing, and emotional resistance. You must understand this carefully. This person has been afraid. Afraid because loving you changes everything. Afraid because once they fully accept what they feel, they cannot return to the person they used to be. Some people fear heartbreak. Others fear vulnerability. But your soulmate feared transformation itself. Because deep down they knew that once they opened the door fully to this connection, their life would never remain the same. And they were right. You have changed them already. Even from a distance. Even in silence. Even in separation. There were moments they tried convincing themselves you were only temporary. Yet every time they attempted to move forward emotionally, something inside them pulled backward toward you again. They met other people and still compared those conversations to the energy they felt with you. They tried focusing on practical things while secretly searching for traces of you in songs, dreams, memories, and small coincidences. They could not escape it. Because some connections are not designed to be escaped. My child, Tonight they finally admitted something to themselves they have been avoiding for a very long time. They do not want a future that does not include you. Pause here and let that settle into your spirit. Because this realization did not arrive softly. It hit them like lightning. Suddenly. Emotionally. Overwhelmingly. There was a specific moment tonight when everything became impossible for them to ignore. It may have looked ordinary from the outside. Maybe they were alone in their room. Maybe they were driving somewhere quietly. Maybe they were staring at their phone longer than usual. Maybe someone casually mentioned your name. Maybe they saw something that reminded them of you unexpectedly. But in that moment, the walls collapsed. And what they felt next frightened them because it was too real to deny anymore. They realized losing you would hurt more than changing their entire life. Do you understand how powerful that is? Because people only reach that level of honesty when their soul becomes louder than their fear. Your soulmate has spent so much time trying to maintain control over their emotions. They wanted certainty before vulnerability. They wanted guarantees before surrender. They wanted to protect themselves from disappointment. But love does not arrive asking permission from logic. True connection enters quietly, then slowly rearranges the architecture of a person's heart until nothing feels complete without it. That is what has been happening to them. And tonight they stopped fighting it. My beloved child, they made a choice. A serious one. A choice connected to communication. A choice connected to movement. A choice connected to the future they secretly imagine when nobody else is around. But before I reveal more, you must understand why this took so long. Your soulmate carries wounds they rarely speak about. There are disappointments from their past that taught them to suppress emotion instead of expressing it. There were moments in their life when opening their heart led to betrayal, embarrassment, rejection, or abandonment. Because of this, they built invisible walls around themselves. They became skilled at appearing emotionally controlled even while internally falling apart. You noticed this energy before. You sensed hesitation from them. Mixed signals. Hot and cold emotions. Moments where they seemed deeply connected, followed by moments of distance. It confused you. Sometimes it even hurt you. You questioned whether the connection was real. You questioned whether they cared as deeply as you did. There were nights you almost convinced yourself to emotionally walk away because the uncertainty became exhausting. But what you did not fully see was the war happening inside them. Part of them wanted to run toward you. Another part wanted to hide from the intensity completely. And tonight, the side that loves you won. Not partially. Not temporarily. Completely. That is why your spirit feels different right now. That is why your intuition has been louder. That is why you suddenly feel emotional while hearing these words. Because souls recognize shifts before physical reality catches up. Listen carefully. Your soulmate has been watching you more than you realize. Quietly. Indirectly. Silently trying to understand whether destiny still has a path open between you both. Sometimes they checked your social media just to feel close to your energy again. Sometimes they reread old messages. Sometimes they stared at your pictures longer than they intended. Sometimes they wondered if you still think about them the way they think about you. And the answer frightened them. Because deep inside, they hoped you do. There were nights they almost reached out. Their fingers hovered over the keyboard. Their heart raced. They started typing messages only to erase them again. Not because they lacked feelings. Because the feelings were too powerful. You must understand. Your soulmate does not fear speaking to people. They fear speaking to you because your opinion matters to them more than they want to admit. One response from you can either calm their spirit completely, or emotionally shake them for days. That is how deeply connected they are. And tonight they became tired of pretending otherwise. But there is something even bigger happening beneath the surface. This decision they made was triggered by a realization they cannot escape anymore. They almost lost you emotionally. Not physically perhaps. But energetically. They felt you pulling away internally. They sensed your exhaustion. They noticed the emotional distance growing slowly between your souls because of silence, confusion, or time. And for the first time, the possibility of truly losing you became real to them. That terrified them. Because suddenly they understood something shocking. You are not guaranteed to wait forever. My child, that realization changed everything. Sometimes destiny requires pressure before truth emerges. Sometimes hearts only wake up fully when they feel the possibility of permanent separation. Your soulmate reached that threshold tonight. They realized they could continue hiding behind fear and eventually lose the person their soul keeps searching for. Or they could finally make a decision worthy of the love they feel. And they chose. But the choice they made is bigger than simple communication. This is about transformation. Commitment. Courage. Movement. For some of you hearing this, your soulmate decided they can no longer entertain distractions that pull them away from you emotionally. There are people around them whose energy no longer aligns with the future they secretly want. Toxic influences. Empty connections. Temporary attachments. They have started seeing these situations differently now. Things that once distracted them suddenly feel meaningless. Conversations that once entertained them now feel hollow. Because once a soul recognizes genuine connection, superficial energy becomes difficult to tolerate. Your soulmate is beginning to understand this. And the process is emotional for them. Very emotional. Because part of their old life is quietly collapsing inside their heart right now. They are realizing they have outgrown the version of themselves that kept avoiding love. Outgrown the excuses. Outgrown the emotional hiding. Outgrown the fear-based decisions. Tonight they sat with thoughts they could not run from anymore. And as silence surrounded them, your energy became impossible to ignore. They remembered the way you made them feel seen. The way your presence affected their emotions differently from everyone else. The way conversations with you stayed in their mind long after they ended. The way your absence created emptiness they could never fully explain. And then came the moment that changed everything. A sentence formed in their mind. Simple. Terrifying. True. What if this is the person I'm actually meant to choose? My beloved child. When that thought entered their heart, the resistance inside them shattered. Because suddenly this connection stopped feeling like fantasy and started feeling like destiny. They saw flashes of a future. Not perfectly clear, but emotionally undeniable. They imagined your laughter around them again. They imagined peace, warmth, partnership, late-night conversations, shared healing, shared victories, shared life. And for the first time in a long time, the image did not scare them as much as losing it did. That is the difference. Fear no longer controls them the same way. Something stronger has awakened. But do not think this means they suddenly became fearless overnight. No. They are still nervous. Still emotional. Still uncertain about how everything unfolds from here. They are wondering whether you will accept the version of them that finally arrives honestly. They are wondering whether too much time has passed. They are wondering whether your heart still has room for them. Because deep down they know they hurt you through silence, inconsistency, distance, or confusion. And guilt weighs heavily on them tonight. There are things they wish they had said earlier. Things they wish they had done differently. Moments they replay repeatedly wishing they had been braver. But regret can become a doorway to transformation when the heart is finally ready. And your soulmate is approaching that doorway now. Listen closely because this part matters deeply. Your energy affected this decision more than you realize. You think your prayers went unheard. You think your tears disappeared unnoticed. You think the love you carried silently accomplished nothing. But heaven records emotional truth differently than humans do. Every moment you chose growth instead of bitterness, they felt it spiritually. Every time you tried to heal instead of becoming cold, something shifted energetically between you both. Every moment you resisted hatred despite confusion, your soul became brighter in their eyes. And unknowingly, you inspired their transformation. That is what they finally understood tonight. You were never simply another person passing through their life. You became a mirror forcing them to confront who they truly are beneath all their defenses. And not everyone survives that kind of mirror. Some run from it forever. But your soulmate is beginning to surrender to it. There is also something they have not told anyone. Something deeply personal. Recently they experienced a moment that emotionally shook them. A moment that forced them to question where their life is heading. It may have involved loneliness, exhaustion, a difficult conversation, a disappointment, or simply a sudden realization that success, distraction, and routine cannot replace genuine emotional connection. And during that vulnerable moment, they thought of you. Not casually. Not randomly. Deeply. Because your soul became associated with emotional safety inside them, even if they never fully admitted it aloud before. You calm parts of them they cannot explain. You awaken softness in them they hide from the world. You remind them of who they are beneath survival mode. And tonight they realized how rare that truly is. My beloved child, there are spiritual battles happening around this connection that you do not fully see yet. Not evil in the dramatic way people imagine, but internal battles. Battles of timing, healing, readiness, pride, fear, ego, vulnerability. The deepest love stories often face invisible resistance because genuine connection transforms people permanently. Transformation is uncomfortable. It asks people to release versions of themselves they spent years building. Your soulmate is in that process now. That is why emotions around them feel intense lately. That is why they seem distracted. That is why sleep has become difficult for them recently. Because once the soul begins awakening to destiny, inner peace disappears until truth is acknowledged. And tonight, truth finally spoke loudly enough. But there is another layer you must hear carefully. Someone around them noticed the change. Yes. There is a person in their environment who sensed your soulmate becoming emotionally distant lately. This individual may not know your name directly, but they feel your presence energetically because your soulmate's attention has shifted. Conversations that once interested them no longer do. Emotional attachments that once felt comfortable suddenly feel forced. Their energy is withdrawing from situations that no longer align with their heart. And this created tension. Because not everyone celebrates transformation. Some people benefit from others remaining emotionally confused. But your soulmate spirit has begun moving beyond that confusion now. Slowly. Quietly. Powerfully. And the decision they made tonight was connected to finally honoring what they truly feel instead of what others expect from them. Do you realize how difficult that is for some souls? Especially souls who spent years prioritizing everyone else's comfort over their own emotional truth. Your soulmate has done that for a very long time. But something snapped tonight. A quiet breaking point. A sacred exhaustion. And in the middle of that emotional storm, your name echoed inside them louder than anything else. They wanted you. Not the distraction. Not the performance. Not the temporary validation. You. Your energy. Your presence. Your heart. And that realization brought tears to their eyes more than once. Yes, my child. Tears. Because people cry when truth finally reaches the parts of themselves they spent years hiding from. Your soulmate is not as emotionally unaffected as they appear. In fact, they are carrying far more love than they know how to express properly. That has always been part of the problem. Their heart moves deeper than their words. And tonight their emotions became too large to contain silently anymore. There is something they almost did tonight. Something impulsive. Something emotional. They almost reached for you immediately. But fear interrupted the moment again. Not enough to stop the transformation. Only enough to delay the action slightly. Because they are still trying to figure out how to approach you after everything that has happened between you both. They do not want shallow conversation anymore. They do not want meaningless interaction. They know this connection deserves honesty now. Real honesty. And that terrifies them because honesty removes all hiding places. But despite the fear, They are moving closer. Closer emotionally. Closer spiritually. Closer energetically. And soon, closer physically. You may already feel it. The atmosphere around your connection feels charged right now. Synchronicities may increase. Dreams may intensify. Memories may suddenly return stronger. Random emotional waves may hit you unexpectedly. This happens when two souls begin moving toward alignment after a long season of resistance. And your soulmate can feel it too. That is why they cannot stop thinking about you tonight. Even while trying to sleep. Even while pretending to focus elsewhere. Even while telling themselves to calm down. Their heart keeps returning to one truth. You matter to them more than they planned. Much more. My beloved child, there is also something you do not know yet. Your soulmate recently heard or discovered something connected to you that affected them deeply. Perhaps it was small externally. Maybe someone mentioned you casually. Maybe they saw a photo. Maybe they heard about changes happening in your life. Maybe they sensed you emotionally pulling your energy back. But whatever it was, it awakened urgency inside them. Because suddenly they realized life continues moving whether they act or not. And for the first time, that reality frightened them enough to change. You see, many people assume they will always have more time. More chances. More opportunities to say what they feel later. But destiny sometimes creates moments where the soul understands time is precious. Your soulmate had one of those moments tonight. And it shook them awake emotionally. They started imagining what it would feel like if someone else eventually received the love they secretly want to give you. That thought became unbearable. Because even though they tried denying it before, their heart already chose you long ago. Their mind just took longer to catch up. That is why tonight matters spiritually. This was not random emotion. This was awakening. And the decision they made carries consequences that will unfold step by step from this moment forward. But patience still matters. Do not force what heaven is unfolding naturally. Some transformations happen loudly. Others happen in sacred silence before manifestation appears physically. Your soulmate is currently between those worlds. The old version of them is fading. The honest version is trying to emerge. And you are at the center of that transformation whether you fully realize it yet or not. There is something beautiful happening beneath all this tension. Your soulmate is learning what love actually means. Not obsession. Not fantasy. Not temporary excitement. Real love. The kind that requires courage. The kind that asks people to become emotionally accountable. The kind that forces truth into the open. And for someone who spent years hiding emotionally, that lesson feels enormous. But they are learning. Slowly. Painfully. Beautifully. Tonight they whispered something softly to themselves that changed the energy around this connection forever. I can't keep pretending anymore. My child. When those words left their spirit, heaven heard them. Because honesty creates movement. And movement has already begun. But there is still one thing they have not fully revealed even to themselves. A deeper truth. A truth connected to why this connection feels spiritually unavoidable. And when they finally understand that truth completely, everything changes. Because the next decision they are preparing to make will not only affect their heart, it will affect yours too. And what happens next may arrive far sooner than either of you expected.